Imagine this. You were watching some older Amiibo reviews and came across a figure that you thought looked pretty cool. You then continued watching said review and you started to notice that the figure in front of you might very well be one of the coolest Transformers you'd ever seen. But then you realized that the figure was released over a decade ago and your hopes of finding one for a good price and in good condition in this economy is lower than the chance of the Skybound animated series not being animated by the same people who made Invincible. Look, I love that show, but you gotta admit that the animation looks even worse than the season 1 of Uma Musume Berry Derby. So I guess that's it, right? You moved on with your day and eventually your month and you just forgot about it. Fast forward a year later, and the lack of new figures on your nearby store shelves is forcing you to resort to back collecting through online secondhand stores. And then you saw it. The faded figure from 1 year ago had actually shown up, mint and sealed box and on sale for modern retail price. You ordered it, as you do. And once it arrived, you began to wonder, was the presumed lost love of your collecting life really as good as you wanted it to be? Well, ladies and gentlemen, imagine no longer, because I shall now definitively answer the question for you. Or for me, I guess, because it's technically my question. Salutations, everyone. It is I, Screaming Star. And today, I will be reviewing the Transformers United Deluxe Class Decepticon Scourge. Watching that Emgo review really brainwashed me into thinking this would be the coolest deluxe class of all time. Is it really though? I mean, does the character Scourge even fit into the deluxe class price bracket? Scourge, who was originally one of the resurrected Decepticons alongside Galvatron in the 1986 movie, seems to be more deserving of a larger size class, such as the Voyager figure that we got as a part of SS86. But considering his two partners in crime also received the deluxe class treatment back in the day, I think this decision would have made a lot of sense at the time. It would have also made this guy a lot more financially accessible, especially back then when deluxe classes probably cost a fraction of what they cost now. And trust me, you would have wanted this guy to be accessible, because in a matter of moments, I'll show you exactly why this figure has joined the ranks of my favorite deluxe class figures. Before taking a peek at Peak though, I figured since this is an older and less represented release, I should give the packaging a bit of fanfare first. On the front here, you can see that yes, this is the Takara United version, whose differences with the Hasbro Generations version will be explored in due time. And isn't it so nice to have Transformers packaged in their alt modes? I wish they'd return to this packaging format at some point. There's a product shot of the robot mode here with the character's name, both in English and Nihongo, and he's a Decepticon. Who would have thunk? On this side, you get a product shot of that lovely vehicle mode. On the back, you get a nice bit of figure photography that's reminiscent of the artwork seen on the back of G1 figure boxes. If you can read Japanese, feel free to take a look at his bio and text specs. I, unfortunately, can't translate it for you because Google Translate is simply not presentable. Some more product shots here, and also images of some other figures from this line. Remember when they used to do that? A lot of elements in this packaging is such a lost art. And on this side, it just shows another product shot with his name in front of it. Alrighty then, I've kept you all waiting long enough. Let's finally open up this Batbot and see what makes him truly special. Yeah, this figure is kind of amazing, not without his issues caused likely by his age, but overall, I am not disappointed with this figure in the slightest. Okay, maybe there are several disappointing aspects, which I'll get into later, but for now, the skies are clear as day, figuratively and literally, because we will be starting off by taking a look at his alternate mode. In this stealth jet mode, Scourge is... he's supposed to be able to transform, right? This isn't some kind of Blocky's Wheels release, is it? So, where the hell is the kibble? Where's the jank? How the frick did they pull this off? I'll tell you how. By making the robot mode a mostly original design that isn't derivative of a 40-year-old PNG model. This is practically what happens when you take an existing jet design and carefully craft a proportionate robot mode out of it. And it works out beautifully for both this and the eventual robot mode. And yes, you heard that right. This mode is based on an actual aircraft. Kinda. The overall shape, according to TF Wiki, is based on the Boeing X-48. Or maybe it's 48, you plain nerds can let me know in the comments. But they've clearly taken a lot of creative liberties with the proportions here. It essentially looks like the real-life jet has foregone its intermittent fuel fasting and decided to become a bit chubbier. Or the better too. for the jet mode, not me. I think this came out looking like a really awesome sci-fi-esque stealth bomber, minus the potential Tron-like panel lines, instead replacing them with plain old realistic ones that you'd see on an actual jet. They are a bit soft in comparison to the actual panel lines that resulted from the transformation, but still provide some nice bits of details for your eyes to latch onto. It's probably caused by the plastic choice too, which isn't ideal, but it is a small gripe within a skyline of clever design decisions, such as the reinterpretation of the G1 headcrest. It really gels well with the rest of the alt mode, though the fact that it doesn't tap in anywhere is kind of annoying and this piece is kind of loose. Fortunately, it doesn't detract from the swooshiness of the figure. Tired of your swooshing? Just plop the figure on your desk, but not before deploying these cleverly hidden landing gears. Talk about a gift that keeps on giving. He does bow down a little bit, but given the low position of the cockpit compared to the other stealth jet transformers, it just emphasizes how huge this thing would be in real life, which really adds some character to this already awesome design. Oh, this glazing, and I haven't even talked about the paint yet. The original generation Scourge looked pretty good in the standard blue plastic, but boy am I glad to have the Takara version instead, with some lovely and durable metallic blue paint on the thrusters and the totally not robot mode chest. You'll see more of this later, don't worry. The Takara one also has some blue stripes on the edges of the wings, whereas the Hasbro one didn't. I guess we can say that Takara does what Hasbro won't. Yeah, that was pretty bad. Nuke me please. Will say though, I do prefer the Hasbro approach of making this panel blue. I think it disguises the chest a bit better. And in case you are curious, its thrusters are technically 5mm Blastify compatible, but it's not a very solid connection, so I don't recommend moving them around too much if you do decide to plug some effects parts in there. Yeah, it's not a secret that I am kind of in love with this jet mode. Without hyperbole, this is my favorite aerial alt mode on any transformer I own. Will the robot mode keep up my amazement though? I guess we'll see about that after taking a look at some size comparisons. Holy moly, that's a big wingspan.
Here is Scourge next to Age of the Prime Slingshot, Legacy United Windblade, a Cybertronian jet now, the TF1 Studio Series Sentinel Prime. Comparing him to a regular 6-inch scale figure, we have the Marvel Legends Mr. Knight. And finally, the only other Scourge in my collection, the Yolo Park AMK Rise of the Beast Scourge. I think he's a bit more of an RID-inspired Scourge, but still, my favorite Scourge has got to be this one. You know, the one that turns into a freaking dragon.
So, surely you've been thinking this whole time, where's the jet kill? Is this actual black magic? For that second question, yes. For that first one, you want to know how much unintentional kibble this alt mode has? Yeah, that's it. These bits under his thrusters are the only unintentional piece of robot mode teaser. That is really freaking impressive. Even today, it would be an engineering marvel, but this guy was made over a decade ago. How did they pull this off when the best jet transformers we get nowadays still exhibit some form of robot under a jet syndrome? Well, except for Age of the Prime Slingshot, but he had the benefit of being extremely stylized. This is just on a whole other level of ingenuity. Okay, Doofus, it can't be all sunshine and rainbows. I bet the transformation on this guy is gonna be so hard you'd be forced to quick channel and give me full power.
I'll give you full power, alright? Yeah!
What was I talking about? Oh yeah, the transformation on this guy? What an insanely fun transformation! It's really clever in how deceptively simple it is, keeping you surprised every step of the way about which parts occupy which spaces in both modes. And after all that, you are greeted with this stellar robot mode, which while it does hold a few more issues than the jet mode, it still managed to captivate me in almost every possible way, even right down to the integration of his accessories. Like, would you believe me if I say that you've technically been looking at his accessories the entire time? How, you may ask? Two magic words, baby. Weapon storage. Scourge. Oh. Yeah, I'm missing one of the guns. It was included out of the box, but I lost it at my cousin's house. Twice in a row now that I've lost a piece from a figure. What kind of incompetent buffoon am I? It would have been cool to showcase too, since it does have a combination gimmick with a smaller gun to form something that resembles his G1 target Master Fracas. But at the same time, it also had a case of barrel erectile dysfunction, so maybe it's not such a bad loss after all. Imagine all the PP jokes I would have made if I'd gone to showcase it. Y'all better be freaking grateful. And that leaves us with this double-barreled gun. It does the job alright. The two weapons really do require each other to be something above average, but as of now, the functionality of this blaster ain't too shabby either. This 3mm clip would be able to be attached to the other gun, but now all I can do with it is to clip it onto his head crest. Looks weird as hell in this mode, but it works quite well for the jet mode, so that's a plus. And of course, you can flip the clip down and reveal a peg, which you can then plug into his lovingly manicured hands. The weapons that you get with this guy are honestly really cool and have some really neat functionalities, but you'll just have to take my word on that since I'm unfortunately an incompetent klutz sometimes. Kinda fitting that Starscream is my mascot, huh? But still, accessories are only a small part of the equation when it comes to Transformers figures, and me losing one accessory here doesn't detract from my adoration of the robot mode in any way. Because my word, if I were to describe this bot mode in one word, it would be stylish. Prior to the days of G1 over accuracy, we would get these faithful yet fresh redesigns of beloved classics. Scourge's G1 design wasn't really bad per se, but compared to this very clever reinterpretation, I'm sorry, there's no contest for me. The silhouette of this figure is wide and proud with those totally tubular shoulder pads that immediately grab your attention. He feels like a true second-in-command to the second-in-command. Yeah, the hierarchy of the Season 3 Decepticons was a bit questionable. I can't question the quality of this head sculpt though, as it is one of the instances where sticking to the original design almost wholesale actually works out for the better. The mustache is silly, sure, but oh, does it ever add so much to this guy's overall style. There's even a bit of white piping here. Lovely. The rest of the design is just as lovely too, integrating a lot of that G1 design cues with his modernized vehicle mode.
But the wings are too small. That ain't Scourge at all.
Was that? You think these slick-looking jet wings are a disgrace to the original and a totally superior shelf armor cape? Worry not, my G1er friends, cause if you remember the weapon storage, you can open up these parts on the wings to give him that bat-like aesthetic. Not gonna lie, despite my slander earlier, I actually fuck with this look heavy, especially if you fold these panels out to give him even bigger wingspan. There are a lot of options here, so you can easily configure the wings to your liking. And I think that is just amazing. Bars. No matter how unintentional it might have been. Speaking of amazing, the paint application also fits that description perfectly. Good God, the metallic blue on his upper body looks lush. Not only that, but the bits of silver on his abs and the pink on his lay-ass hands just make him stand out that much more compared to the Hasbro release. Not saying that version looks bad by any means, but this particular version just hits me in all the right ways with its resplendence. Even has a better placement of the Decepticon logo, though it is a lot smaller as a result. So the only part here where I think Hasbro did better is with the shoulder pads having a more consistent blue between the separate parts. That made them feel a lot more cohesive. But even then, it's not like the Takara's shoulders look hateful in any way. They're just a bit more choppy than usual, which I'll gladly take as a sacrifice for the rest of the improvements. Unfortunately, Mini Screaming was kinda right. It can't be all sunshine and rainbows, because while his aesthetics are 10 out of 10, his hardware takes a bit of a nosedive. Pun very much intended. This is where you start to notice the age of the figure, because the solidity here is not the best. He doesn't feel awful, but these ball-jointed hips in particular really needed to be tightened up significantly. Also, remember how I said my Onyx Prime copy doesn't have the elbow popping off issue? Guess my luck ran out for a bit, because for some reason this particular copy of Scourge does have that issue. Indeed, my friends, the soup is cold and the salad is hot. Amazing. It doesn't pop off too often, but it is worrying enough to the point where I get really gentle whenever I mess with his right arm. But those ain't even my biggest issue with the robot mode. No. You will know what that issue is in a few seconds when we take a look at his articulation. For the most part, his articulation works really well, except for one particularly painful point.
Scourge here has a ball joint at the head, really loose when it's facing forwards, but it's fine when it faces sideways. I don't get that. Oh, and I guess you can look up that far. Shoulders rotate 360, moves out on a trigger-happy joint, but good news is that it doesn't bump into the head. Elbow swivel and an elbow bend. Wrist swivels. A waist swivel, heck yeah. The wings can hinge at this panel here, and a double hinge joint at these 2 points here, and a hinge joint that bends downwards at the tip of the wing. Backpack might untab easily, so be careful with that. His butt flap is on a double hinge joint, so it can move wherever you want. And now we move on to the hips. He can do the splits just fine despite it being a bit loose, so that's all well and dandy, and he can even move back that far. You wanna know how much these hips can move forward? That's it. I don't know why they needed to sculpt his hips this way, but they did, and it just becomes really annoying when it comes to posing. Half tempted to just take a nail clipper here and cut this part off. And the sculpting here also encumbers the hips wheels moving in. Yippee! But at least he's got double jointed knees, that's pretty cool. And what's also really cool is the ankle articulation. For being a figure made in the 2010s, he has an ankle that moves up about that far, down all the way, and a beautiful ankle pivot. Everything here works really well except for it is really annoying, and it is my biggest issue with this figure. But oh well, what can you do? I just hope that he'll still be able to strike some dynamic poses.
You know what? Even with some solidity issues and that one hindrance in the articulation, this robot mode still hits most of the right notes for me. Maybe not as much as a jet mode, but it still does add up to an immensely high score in the end. And I don't even have a scoring system. Should I give my reviews a grading system? I don't know. Give me your thoughts in the comments. But what I was really trying to say is that I'll give you all my full thoughts on this figure after we get through some size comparisons.
Here he is next to Slingshot, Windblade, Sentinel Prime, the other Scourge, Mr. Knight, and finally, Mighty Galvatron. They're not in scale at all, but I do still think these two look really cool together. And I forgot to show them both in alt mode, so here you go.
And that concludes my review for the Transformers United Deluxe Class Decepticon Scourge. To answer the question I had in the beginning of the video, was the presumed lost love of your collecting life really as good as you wanted it to be? I would say that for the most part, abso-freaking-lutely. Sure, he carries some structural baggage that was probably emblematic of the time he was released, but as a whole, this figure really did fulfill my need for a one-of-a-kind Deluxe Class figure. Did he end up becoming my favorite Deluxe Class in the end? No, I'd say that honor still goes to Legacy United Shard and or Studio Series Hot Hod, but even then, I think he might just be a notch below those two, if only for his less than ideal build quality and hip articulation. He is still an amazing example of how breathing new life into an established design can result in a marvel of ingenuity. The practically perfect alt mode, the immensely satisfying transformation, and the stylish attack robot mode are enough proof to me that we need Hasbro to start doing something like this again. And I do feel the need to encourage you to sample this figure in any way you can, because believe me, if your collecting sensibilities line up with mine, you're gonna have one heck of a time experiencing this brilliance of Hashtag engineering. And with all of that being said, I thank you all so much for watching my video. What did you think of it? If you enjoyed it, leave a like. Got something to say, leave a comment. And if you like my channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Farewell, fellas. I will hopefully see you all next time.
If in this video we took a look at a 2010s figure of an 86 movie character, then in the next video, I'll pretty much do the same thing. But this time with a few more crash outs.